Today, I'm going to be showing you how to make these beautiful heart-shaped resin necklaces. So I made one for me and one for my sister. Her favorite color is purple and my favorite color is blue. And after I made them, I realized they reminded me a lot of the Barbie movie, the one with the two sisters with the matching necklaces. So I thought that was cool. But I also made a couple of other pendants so you guys can get a rough idea of the other colors you can use and ideas you can make with this project. So the first thing you're going to need is a silicone bowl, and you're going to put a little bit of resin in that and then add the dye of your choice. I'm using green, and this is dye specifically for resin. And when you're adding the dye, it is very important that you do not add too much. If you add too much dye, it won't cure properly and it will just stay sticky. So I'm using 1 to 2 drops max. Now, once you pour it into your pendant, you're going to spread it very thin, making sure you can still kind of see the background of your pendant. Once you're done with that, you're going to cure that layer. And then once you're done curing that layer, you're going to add the flowers of your choice on top. I'm using these white flowers. Now, the flowers I used in this pendant are ones I picked from my backyard, so they're a bit thicker than usual. But in the first photo you saw of my sister's pendant and my pendant and her pendant, those were store-bought flowers, which I actually prefer because they were thinner. They made it to where it was easier to coat the top of the pendant without the flowers sticking out. They also showed up a bit wider, but it's all up to you. You can pick whatever you want for your own pendant. Now, when it comes to adding the top layer, how you should get the bubbles out is I'm using an X-Acto knife, but that's because I did not have another option. We did not have a lighter, but if you're at home and you have access to a lighter, you should use that to pop the bubbles, or you can use a heat gun. Some people say blow dryers work, but I don't know. I think I tried that and it was very slow, so I'd just say stick to the lighter. Now for the second pendant, I'm using yellow dye and I'm going to be adding resin. I didn't really like this one too much just because the dye came off more green because of the silver base. And now when it hits a light, it's very yellow. So I would have either done a gold pendant next time or maybe just chose a more orangey yellow. But I mean, it was still okay. But I'm just going to mix that up, pour that in there, flatten it out, and then cure that first layer. If your first layer is too sticky and won't cure properly, you can just go over with a clear, like, coat of resin. Sometimes I'll do that if it's not too bad, and that clear coat of resin on top of the uncured resin beneath it will help it to where it will fully cure on the top. Now, I don't know if this is a good idea long term, but it will save your pendant if you added too much dye. I'll also show you later on in this video how to fix it if you really messed it up. But yeah, I just added another flower on top of this one and then a coat of resin and then cured that. Now for the last pendant I am adding, this was fuchsia dye, but actually turned out more red than I wanted, but still very pretty, so I'm not mad about it. So if you watch very closely, this is when I made the mistake. I went back and forth adding more dye because I didn't make a big enough batch when I first made it. And if you look, it's already cured and it's like very globby. So you'll watch me and cure it real quick, and then I'll take an X-Acto knife to it and I'll peel it up because it was just very uneven and I just decided to start over. Yeah, here it is. I'm going to peel it up with the X-Acto knife, and all you have to do is just take some alcohol and clean the pendant, and then you can restart. Now, if this was like fully cured, I don't know if that would work, but it does work if it's like partially cured. So now that it's back to being clean, I'm going to properly do it this time by mixing a bigger batch and making sure the color is right before adding it in my pendant. It's not best to mix the pigment in with the pendant just because it can be a little patchy, so I'd suggest doing that separately. Now I'm just adding another flower on it, but this pendant I'm adding gold leaf flakes to it just to make it a little bit more different. Now this part, I don't really have any good tips for it. I just kind of shred the gold leaf in my hand and try to flick it onto the pendant. I've tried a couple of other things like tweezers and it just sticks to the tweezers. So I don't know. I just kind of grind it in my hand and hope for the best, I guess. But the reason it's on this tiny box is most pendants have the little hook to thread a necklace through, which makes it to where it's uneven when curing. So I just have that dangle off a box while I cure. So now that my first layer is dry, I'm adding a second layer of just clear resin to finish it off, and then making sure it has no bubbles. Some people said you can use alcohol, not actual alcohol, but isopropyl alcohol, and spray it on there and it will get rid of bubbles. I probably should have tried that, but it kind of slipped my mind. But yeah, that's it. That's how you make it. I hope I did a good job explaining it. But yeah, that's how I did the pendants. I hope you guys like it. Sorry about the long distance between posting, but I'm in college now, so can't promise anything. But thanks for watching.